static whispers, a faint metallic scraping sound. They said it was just Pixels, a game where viewers dictated a trapped soul's fate. But the chill in my room now isn't from the AC, and the shadows on my wall are moving with a hunger the stream can't hide. What if the screen is less a window and more a door? Liam had built a respectable following on his streaming channel, PixelGhoul, by dissecting the latest horror games with a blend of professional critique and genuine, relatable jump scares. But lately, the well was running dry. Standard slashers and haunted houses felt rote. Then came the buzz. The Observer. It wasn't just a game. It was an event. An interactive, live broadcast horror experience where thousands of viewers would collectively decide every action of a character trapped within a truly derelict, reportedly cursed asylum. "Okay, chat," Liam announced, leaning into his mic, a practiced grin plastered across his face. "Tonight, we dive into The Observer. This thing is supposed to be next level, full audience control. Let's see if we can keep our poor avatar alive longer than 5 minutes, shall we?" The game loaded, filling his ultra-wide monitor with a grainy first-person perspective. The graphics were stunningly realistic, leaning into a found footage aesthetic. Dust motes danced in the slivers of moonlight piercing grimy windows. Rusting gurneys and broken medical equipment littered the vast, echoing entrance hall. The character, a young woman named Alara, according to the game's brief intro, shivered visibly. "All right, chat, first decision. Investigate the faint sound coming from the West Wing, or hide in the reception desk's shadow." Liam read aloud, a voting poll appearing on his stream overlay. The votes poured in, a furious democratic surge. "Investigate," won by a landslide. "All right, Alara, brave soul, into the unknown we go." The first few hours were a masterclass in slow-burn dread. Alara navigated collapsed corridors, stumbled through patient rooms still bearing the tragic imprints of their former occupants. The sound design was impeccable. Distant whimpers, the creak of unseen floorboards, a guttural groan that seemed to scrape against Liam's very eardrums. Jump scares were infrequent but brutally effective, sending his heart racing and his chat exploding with a mixture of terror and delight. His viewership count surged, an intoxicating rush of numbers. As the night wore on, Liam noticed small, unsettling details. A particular broken clock in one asylum room showed 3:33 a.m., the same exact time his own digital clock on his desk read. He dismissed it as a cool, immersive touch. Later, a faded photograph on a dusty desk in the game seemed to depict a landscape remarkably similar to the park near his apartment. "Weird Easter egg," he mumbled, shrugging. "Devs really went all out." He ended the first session exhausted, but exhilarated. The game was a hit, and so was his stream. He dreamt of twitching shadows and rattling chains, waking up in a cold sweat. He told himself it was just a side effect of immersion. The subsequent streaming sessions of The Observer deepened the unsettling atmosphere, both in the game and subtly in Liam's reality. The entity haunting the asylum became more defined, less a shadow and more a gaunt, impossibly tall figure with burning, hateful eyes. Alara's decisions grew more desperate. Crawl through the dark ventilation shaft, or run across the open courtyard, risking exposure. The chat, now numbering in the tens of thousands, reveled in the high stakes, their collective will shaping Alara's terrifying journey. Liam, however, started experiencing things that couldn't be so easily dismissed as game design. His apartment, usually well lit and comfortable, began to feel cold, constantly. He'd hear faint whispers when he wasn't streaming, just at the edge of his hearing, like echoes of the game's ambiance. One evening, reaching for his favorite coffee mug, he found it had been moved from the kitchen counter to his desk, a location it never occupied. A faint, almost imperceptible scratch marred its surface, reminiscent of a mark he'd seen on a mug in Alara's inventory within the game. His sleep became fragmented, plagued by nightmares where he wasn't Liam, the streamer, but Ilara, trapped and hunted, her every breath controlled by unseen forces. He would wake with a profound sense of dread, the chill in his room now a constant companion, seeping into his bones. His viewers, too, seemed to feel the creeping influence. Anyone else feel like they're being watched after playing The Observer? One comment read during a stream. Another, "My dog keeps barking at empty corners since I started watching Liam play this." One particularly active user, Spectre Eye, began posting increasingly unnerving messages. "The game knows what you fear, Liam," one read. Another, after Liam inadvertently mentioned a childhood fear of spiders off camera during a rant, "8 legs, 8 eyes. It sees you too." Liam tried to laugh it off, but a knot of ice formed in his stomach. How could Spectre Eye know that? He hadn't shared that detail publicly. The game itself seemed to evolve. The asylum's architecture would sometimes shift, revealing a corridor that eerily mirrored the layout of Liam's own hallway or a patient's cell that resembled his bedroom. The entity, once a creature of predictable jump scares, now seemed to taunt Ilara, appearing just at the edge of the screen, its skeletal fingers twitching, its silent gaping maw seeming to stretch in a knowing grin. Ilara, the digital avatar, started to display a subtle, desperate intelligence. Her eyes, captured in close-up during a moment of intense fear, seemed to pierce the screen, looking not at the entity, but directly at Liam, or perhaps through him, at the audience controlling her. A silent plea. Liam's mental state deteriorated. He grew gaunt, his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. The line between his reality and the game blurred, thin as a spider's silk. He started seeing movement in his peripheral vision, hearing whispers that sometimes coalesced into a name, his name. He tried to stop playing. He really did. He logged off, shut down his PC, even unplugged his monitor. But the game, or something tied to it, wouldn't let him go. His phone would vibrate with endless notifications from his dedicated observer chat. His inbox overflowed with messages from Spectre Eye, each one more specific, more unsettling than the last. "She needs you, Liam. The game demands a witness, a host." The pull was irresistible, a chilling gravity. He had to finish it. He had to understand. Liam began his final stream, his face pale and drawn. His chat immediately noticed. "Liam, you look terrible, man." "Are you okay?" "The observer is getting to you." He forced a weak smile. "Just a bit tired, chat. We're gonna finish this tonight, one way or another." The game loaded. Ilara was in a dilapidated surgery room surrounded by arcane symbols scrawled in what looked like dried blood. The entity was there too, looming in the background, its presence so thick and suffocating, Liam felt like he couldn't breathe in his own room. The air was frigid, cutting. Liam shivered, a deep, uncontrollable tremor. On his second monitor, Liam saw his own reflection in the stream preview. His face, gaunt and terrified, superimposed over the digital backdrop of the asylum. But something was wrong. In his reflection, behind him, the wall of his room seemed to ripple, the posters on it distorting into something ancient and terrifying. The shadows deepened, coalescing into forms that mirrored the entity on his main screen. "Okay, chat," Liam's voice cracked. "Here's the final decision point. Ilara is cornered. Sacrifice herself to seal the entity, or attempt to escape through the ritual circle." The poll appeared. Liam stared at the two options, his heart hammering against his ribs. He wanted Ilara to escape, to break free. He knew deep down he wanted himself to break free. But the votes started pouring in, overwhelmingly for sacrifice. "No," Liam whispered, not to the chat, but to himself. He tried to cancel the poll, to click attempt. His mouse wouldn't move. It was frozen, just like his keyboard. He hammered his hand on the desk, fear clawing at his throat. The percentage for sacrifice climbed relentlessly. 60%, 70%, 90%. His eyes flickered to his second monitor. The wall behind him was now unmistakably shifting, the plaster cracking, revealing a dark, pulsing void. The air in the room was like ice, burning his lungs with every breath. He heard the whisper again, louder this time, right next to his ear, a chorus of voices chanting, "Sacrifice, vessel, observer." The poll closed. Sacrifice was the unanimous decision. On screen, Ilara's eyes, wide with unspeakable terror, locked onto Liam's. She raised her hands, not in defense, but in a gesture of surrender, or perhaps acceptance. The entity surged forward, its impossibly long fingers wrapping around her, pulling her into its void. A silent scream ripped through the digital space. Then, Ilara was gone, consumed by darkness. At that exact moment, the void behind Liam on his stream preview ripped open. A skeletal hand, long and impossibly thin, reached out from the wall. It wasn't an illusion. It was real, cold, tangible. It seized Liam's shoulder. His own scream was a guttural, primal sound echoing through his headset. His monitor flickered violently, then went black. The stream disconnected. The PixelGhoul channel went dark. For a few days, Liam's devoted community flooded social media, wondering what happened. Some speculated a power outage, others a nervous breakdown. But no one saw Liam again. His apartment was found empty, undisturbed, save for a lingering, unnatural chill. The police found nothing amiss. The Observer game was pulled from all platforms within a week, its developers citing technical difficulties and player safety concerns. But whispers persisted online. Other smaller streamers who had dabbled in The Observer reported strange occurrences. But unlike Liam, they had stopped playing just in time. They survived, but forever changed, their eyes holding a distant, knowing fear. Months later, a new horror game streamer, known only as Ilaria Host, began to gain traction. Her channel was small but growing. She rarely spoke, moving with a stiff, almost puppet-like grace. Her streams were unsettling, not for the games she played, but for the way she stared sometimes directly into the webcam, a profound, almost ancient sorrow in her eyes. And sometimes, just sometimes, in the background of her stream, a fleeting shadow would stretch on the wall, impossibly tall, its presence cold and watchful, making her twitch, just slightly, as if she were being nudged. The game, it seemed, had merely found a new way to observe.